Welcome, and thanks for joining me on Tales on the Couch. I'm Dr. Heather Wisdom, your host on this bonus episode from the Wisdom of Sex. And today we're going to tell a tale of what should have been a romantic, adventure-filled honeymoon. Newlyweds Gabe and Tina Watson traveled from Alabama to Australia to celebrate the beginning of their life together. But the trip quickly turned into a nightmare when Tina died under suspicious circumstances during a scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef. Was her death a tragic accident or a carefully planned crime with financial motives? So join the doctor on the couch as we dive deep into the honeymoon from hell. The newlyweds and the trip of a lifetime, Tina and Gabe Watson seem like a picture-perfect couple. They met in Birmingham, Alabama, and after a few years of dating, they tied the knot in October 2003. Both of them loved the idea of an adventurous honeymoon, and Australia, with its beautiful reefs and endless diving opportunities, seemed like the ideal destination. Gabe, a certified diver, was excited to introduce Tina, who was less experienced, to the underwater world. They planned a diving trip on the Great Barrier Reef, one of the world's most famous dive spots. But as the honeymoon began, some friends and family sensed that something wasn't quite right. Tina's father would later report feeling uneasy about her decision to go scuba diving, especially given her limited experience. What should have been a joyous occasion was soon overshadowed by a tragic event that raised more questions than it answered. The dive that went wrong. On October 22, 2003, just 11 days after their wedding, Tina and Gabe set out with a diving group on the SS Yongala, a historic wreck site on the Great Barrier Reef. This was to be Tina's first major dive, and the conditions that day were challenging. Tina was understandably nervous, relying on Gabe to help guide her underwater. However, what happened next would lead to years of investigations, court cases, and unresolved questions. As the group began their descent, something went terribly wrong. According to Gabe, Tina panicked underwater, and he claimed he tried to help her. But he surfaced without her, and within minutes, divers found Tina lying motionless on the ocean floor. She was pulled from the water, but it was too late. She was pronounced dead on the scene. Tina's death was initially thought to be a tragic accident, but as details emerged, suspicions began to grow. Why had Gabe, a trained diver, left her underwater? And why were there inconsistencies in his story about the events leading up to her death? The investigation and suspicion. As Australian authorities investigated, they found a number of inconsistencies in Gabe's account of the incident. He claimed that Tina had panicked and accidentally knocked his mask off, causing him to resurface. But several divers nearby reported seeing Gabe calmly swimming away from Tina as she sank, raising questions about his story. Investigators also learned that Gabe had taken out a life insurance policy on Tina shortly before their wedding. Although Tina's family believed this to be suspicious, Gabe insisted that Tina's death was a tragic accident. Adding to the mystery, it was later revealed that Gabe had allegedly asked a friend how to disable a diver's air supply without leaving evidence. This raised serious concerns about whether Tina's death was an accident or if Gabe had something to gain. These revelations painted a picture of a calculated plan rather than a honeymoon tragedy. Australian authorities eventually charged Gabe with manslaughter, but the question remained, was this a premeditated murder for financial gain or simply a misinterpreted accident? The court cases and verdicts. Gabe was extradited to Australia to face trial for Tina's death, and the case quickly garnered international attention. Prosecutors argued that Gabe had intentionally disabled Tina's oxygen, leaving her to drown on the reef floor, while Gabe's defense team maintained that it was an unfortunate accident caused by Tina's inexperience and panic underwater. In 2009, Gabe pled guilty to a lesser charge of manslaughter by negligence and served only 18 months in an Australian prison. However, upon returning to the U.S., he faced additional charges in Alabama for murder. But despite the circumstantial evidence, the case struggled to hold up in court without concrete proof. Ultimately, the Alabama court dismissed the murder charges due to lack of evidence. The legal battle left many unanswered questions and frustration among Tina's family, who believed Gabe was responsible for her death. The verdicts didn't provide the closure they sought, and the case remains controversial, with Tina's loved ones questioning if justice was truly served. The legacy and unresolved questions. The story of Gabe and Tina Watson is one that continues to stir debate and suspicion. Was Gabe a grieving husband whose honeymoon turned into tragedy? Or was he a manipulative figure who plotted to end his wife's life for financial gain? Even today, Tina's family and many others believe that there was more to the story than what the courts could prove. Tina's death serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of trust and the unsettling truth that sometimes love can hide dark motives. The case raises questions about the complexities of investigating crimes that happen in remote locations and the challenges of proving intent without direct evidence. Though Gabe Watson maintains his innocence, Tina's story reminds us that life can be fragile and highlights the sometimes murky motives behind seemingly loving relationships. The case of Gabe and Tina Watson is a haunting reminder that even the most joyous occasions, like a honeymoon, can end in tragedy. Thanks for joining me today on this bonus episode of The Wisdom of Sex Tales on the Couch. If you enjoyed this telling, give it 5 stars and subscribe so you never miss another tale. And don't forget, you can always message me on social media or email me at drheatherwisdom@gmail.com with topics or tales you'd like to hear. Until then, stay safe and remember that sometimes what seems like true love can be hiding something far more sinister.